China has taken over Africa. Not literally, but politically. Until recently, China had diplomatic relations with 50 out of 54 African states. 4 countries, Burkina Faso, São Tomé and Príncipe, Swaziland, and Gambia maintained relations with Taiwan. Beijing, however, made quite active efforts to get them on its side. As early as 2013, the Gambia suspended relations with Taiwan and recognized the PRC as China's sole legitimate representative. And in 2016, China and the Gambia established diplomatic relations, and in December of the same 2016, diplomatic relations between China and São Tomé and Príncipe were restored. Finally, in 2018, Burkina Faso announced the restoration of diplomatic relations with China. At the signing in Beijing, China's foreign minister expressed the sincere hope that Swaziland would also soon join Beijing's family of supporters. China has big projects in almost all African countries. China is launching transport projects, energy projects, building real estate, extracting minerals. They have built the largest dam in Nigeria, a railroad in Kenya, the longest bridge in Mozambique, but they also built a shoe factory in Ethiopia, a soccer stadium in Cape Verde, parliamentary buildings in 9 nations, and the headquarters of the African Union. And believe me, this is only a small part of all Chinese projects. Almost all of them are done with Chinese money. They are designed by China, built by China. Hundreds of thousands of Chinese workers come to Africa and are managed by Chinese managers. In 2018, the Ethiopian Railroad was officially commissioned. The 760 kilometers of railway had been under construction since 2011. Built with Chinese loans and using local labor, the project budget exceeded $3 billion. As usual, the loans were tied to certain conditions. The contractors were major Chinese construction corporations, and the rolling stock purchase for the road was also made in China. Even the final point of the road, through which Ethiopia will continue to export its products, was the new port of Douala in Djibouti, built with the same Chinese money. China's first overseas naval base was also built here in parallel. China chose a strategic place for its militaristic debut on the world stage. The Horn of Africa, the proximity of access to the Red Sea with its Suez Canal and the Indian Ocean make the naval presence in this region a key security factor. In 2014, the reconstruction of the Benguela Railroad, which connects the Atlantic port of Lobito in Angola to the Congolese border, was completed. The result: it became convenient to export the rich natural resources of Katanga and Zambia for Chinese money. China has similar large railway projects in Nigeria and Sudan, Uganda, and Mali. In each case, they involve billions of dollars in Chinese-tied loans, construction organizations, engineering support, and supplies of machinery from the China. Of course, China is not limited to railroads alone. In Angola, the China International Property Investment Corporation has built a whole new city of Calamba for 500,000 people near the capital. In the first years of its existence, settlement was difficult. Africans did not adapt well to the new format of life in the multi-story buildings built in the middle of the desert. Calamba, with its dozens of densely built high-rises, was like a typical Chinese ghost town, the brainchild of an overheated economy and a furious construction boom. Recently, however, its apartments have gradually found new owners. Calamba's population is approaching 100,000 residents. China Railway Construction Corporation and the Chinese CITIC Corporation were involved in a consortium in the largest Algerian infrastructure project, the construction of the AOU Expressway linking the western and eastern borders of the country. The cost of the 1,200-kilometer road was estimated at $11 billion. This list of completed, ongoing, and prospective African projects with Chinese participation could go on and on. The huge Husab uranium mine in Namibia, the construction of the new Egyptian capital, participation in the construction of the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Yeah, sometimes these are really useful projects. A hospital, a bridge, a road, they may be harmful to the environment, but poor African countries could never afford such large investments themselves. And that's the catch. Because of course, China is not building all this for nothing but in exchange for resources. For example, the Democratic Republic of Congo has a lot of cobalt. It's a very important metal for making batteries, and almost all of the cobalt mines in the country are owned by China. And if there are no resources, China builds on debt. Africa is becoming more and more tightly connected to China. Some countries are simply dependent on it. China is the biggest creditor of the entire continent. The 32 countries in Africa owe the most money to China. When a similar situation occurred in Sri Lanka, the country could not pay back, and as a concession, they had to give China a strategically important seaport. That's the policy. China is now a real superpower, and it behaves accordingly. It is looking for allies. Africa, which has 54 countries whose population is only going to grow, is a great ally. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel and write your opinion in the comments.